Today on the channel, we have with us Tori Green. Tori is one of the co-founders of IONET, a decentralized GPU network. Been a fan of IONET for a long time, and I actually had the opportunity to invest in it in full disclosure, but wanted to bring Tori on the channel today to talk about what exactly they're building, their journey so far, and what we can expect in the future. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, sir. It's great to be here. I've been a fan and follower of yours of a long time, both on Twitter and YouTube.
Awesome. Love to hear that. So to start, I did a brief intro, but why don't you introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Tori Green. I'm the COO and co-founder of IONET. I think we can get into what would you like to know first? I can give you a quick background of IONET or how I ended up starting.
Let's start with you. What's your background? How did you come to be in crypto? Why are you in crypto? And then how did you come to found IONET?
Sure. So I've had a couple of different careers. Sort of started off pretty corporate. Was an investment banker, private equity. Did corporate strategy at Disney, and then did that for about like 5-10 years. And then I moved into Web 2 for the second phase of my career. Started off as a co-founder of a digital media company, and then became a VC for about 7 years. And during my 10 years of VC, I really started out more as an investing partner, and then I moved to becoming an operating partner. And so I would help portfolio companies out with strategy, finance, operations, sales, marketing. And one of the last gigs that I had as part of my VC role was I was the CRO and COO of a machine learning fintech. And that's where I learned a lot about AI and some of the challenges facing the space. At the same time, I personally have been very into crypto since about 2016, 2017. Actually, our fund had an investment in a crypto company, so I learned a lot about it there. Started writing a lot about it, personally investing a lot, studying it. Always wanted to get into the space professionally, but just never found the opportunity. And I think the reason for that is a lot of the protocols I saw out there, I felt were effectively solutions looking for problems. And this is true, especially in the DePIN space. A lot of these other large DePINs, I just don't think that they're that big of a problem, what they're working on. And so when I saw IONET, it was this huge, it just seemed like this huge opportunity, right? Like, you now had a DePIN to solve a hair on fire problem, which is arguably the biggest problem in the world, which is the shortage of GPUs, which massively impacts AI. And so this was something I just really started thinking about, like, wow, people should be building more and more of these decentralized GPU networks. At the same time, I actually met Ahmad, and I saw that he was working on one of these, and I got to know him, and I was instantly extremely impressed by not only what he's doing, but also him. Being a VC for a long time, I learned to spot trends in founders. And Ahmad has this unique combination of vision, sense of urgency, and just the ability to be like 1,000x engineer and build great products. And so, I got to working with him a little bit. I helped him out on the project, and I saw that, like, wow, we really work together well. Like, this is a leader I want to follow. And so basically I quit my job and joined IONET very, very early on, early enough to get the co-founder position. And that was probably 8 months ago, and the rest has been history.
Wow. Well, that's probably a lot's happened in that 8 months. For people who maybe aren't familiar with IONET, although I'm guessing for people who are watching this videos, a lot of them probably already have some idea what it does. But can you go a bit more into exactly what IONET is?
Sure. I think the easiest way to describe it is we're building an Airbnb for GPUs. You could also call it a decentralized AWS. For those who are not familiar, let's sort of step back for a second. What are GPUs? GPUs are effectively the computers that are used to create, optimize, and deploy AI. With the growth of AI, everyone knows that AI has been going crazy. The demand for GPUs has been going through the roof. I think that the CEO of Intel said that GPUs are the new oil. And the demand for GPUs has been increasing like crazy. It's been doubling every 3.4 months. And when you contrast this to the supply, which, historically Moore's law doubles every 18 months, you have this huge gap between supply and demand, and it's only getting worse. Now, the ironic thing is this gap really only exists in the cloud. So there's a huge shortage of GPUs at AWS, GCP, Azure, and this causes multiple problems for the consumer. It causes long wait times, it causes limited choice, and perhaps most importantly, it causes really, really high prices. To give you sort of an anecdotal point of reference for these prices, ChatGPT itself is spending $700,000 per day on AI compute. That's per day. And even small machine learning startups are spending hundreds of thousands per month. So the way we solve this is by effectively tapping into underutilized sources of GPUs. And that could be independent data centers. There are thousands of these in the US alone. They're operating on average at 12 to 18% capacity. There are all the crypto miners, which obviously a lot of them, especially like a lot of the old Ethereum miners, are no longer being used after the switch to proof of stake. And then there's just a lot of different consumer cards. And so by expanding the supply, we're effectively creating this Airbnb effect, if you will. Just like Airbnb disrupted hotels or Uber disrupted transportation, you effectively have structural arbitrage. So by expanding supply, we can offer consumers 10 times lower prices and offer suppliers 10 times greater profits. That in a nutshell is what we're doing now. There is a bit more complexity to that, which we can address later. But I also wanted to touch on, this is really just the first step in what we're building. In the long term, we really see IONET building a ecosystem of AI-enabled products and services with AI compute as a financialized commodity in the center of that. And in the long term, we intend the IO coin to be the currency of AI.
Wow, that is a tagline, the currency of AI. So a couple follow-up questions on that. There are other people building decentralized GPU networks as well. What differentiates IONET from that?
Great question. So let's step back a second and sort of look at the marketplace for GPUs. If you're an AI or machine learning engineer, how do you get a GPU? You effectively have three choices. Number one, you can buy your own GPUs, host them yourself. Obviously, there's a lot of problems there. GPUs are hard to get. It's hard to host your own GPUs. So the next option is the cloud. And the way I like to define the cloud as anyone who owns and operates their own GPU. So you obviously have big cloud like AWS, GCP, Azure, and you have the specialty cloud providers like CoreWeave, Lambda Labs, things like that. The problem, as we've discussed with the cloud, is obviously that they're very expensive because of the scarcity. So you now have this new breed of, what we could call marketplaces or GPU networks or aggregators. And you actually have several of them in Web 2 and you have several in Web 3. In Web 2, you have like Vast AI together. And in Web 3, you obviously have your Filecoins, renders, and the like. Now, at the surface, it may appear that IONET is doing something similar. But really what our USP is it's something, it's a technology that we like to call clustering. That's actually not the official name for it. The real name is distributed computing. It's not something that we like to talk about a lot because distributed computing and machine learning means something very different than it does in Web 3. But at its core, clustering is the ability to take lots of GPUs and make them work together as a single powerful supercomputer. And just to give you, if everyone in machine learning is using clustering, it's table stakes now. So without clusters, it would have taken OpenAI 10 years to train GPT-3. So whether it's for training or inferencing, every major company, Uber, Instacart, OpenAI uses clusters for virtually everything. Now, it's actually quite easy to get clusters if you go to a centralized provider, because anytime GPUs are co-located, you can literally just plug them in together and they work together. So most people who need clusters go to AWS, they go to Google, they go to Azure. Obviously, that runs into the same problems that we were talking about before. Way, way, way too expensive and hard to get. Now, before IONET, there was no way to cluster GPUs that are in physically different locations, right? And so because of that, What you get in most of these GPU DePINs is you get what's called single instances. And that can either be a single GPU or a single computer that has 8 GPUs. Unfortunately, that doesn't really work for machine learning workloads. There's really nothing you can do with a single GPU. Some of these networks do claim to offer clustering, but especially on the Web 2 side, if you go to their websites and request a cluster, you'll see that you actually have to sign up. You have to put your name in. You have to talk to a salesperson. They'll get back to you, because what they're actually doing is they're trying to ping their network and figure out, okay, who has 25 A100s, who has 50 H100s, and serve that to you. IONET is unique because we're the only product that is launched with the ability to cluster GPUs from different physical locations. And that means that we can take 25 GPUs from the US, 25 from Norway, and 25 from Singapore, and we can build you a mega cluster that you can use to train machine learning models, fine-tune machine learning models, or optimize machine learning models. Because we're the only ones that can do this, we're effectively the only ones that can truly service AI. And that is why you actually see a lot of these other DePINs partnering with us. You've seen that Gaiman has partnered with us. You've seen that Render has partnered with us. You've seen that Filecoin has partnered with us. And in the next couple of weeks, we'll be announcing even some larger partnerships. And so the way we think of ourselves is kind of the glue between the DePIN community. I mean, some have called us a DePIN of DePINs. We're the glue between the DePIN community and AI.
Cool. Awesome. That's really interesting. So take a step back for a second. What would be the reasons why, say I was starting a startup that we needed to use, it was an AI startup, we needed to do machine learning. Why would we choose to use IONET over a centralized provider?
Why do you use Priceline? Why do you use Kayak? Why do you use Booking.com? Ultimately, it's choice. We market cost a lot, and that is very important for a lot of providers. You can come on IONET and you can find GPUs for up to 90% cheaper than what you can get on GCP, Azure, AWS. But truly, the advantage of IONET is choice. Let's say you wanted to, you wanted to absolutely guarantee the same level of quality. You can recreate what you have at AWS now. You can get 100 A100s co-located, connected with NVLink, fully SOC 2 compliant, super high bandwidth speed at maybe 30 to 40% cheaper. You can even theoretically increase performance. For instance, let's say you're a hedge fund in Manhattan, and right now you're using AWS with a data center in Texas. You could recreate that in upstate New York, and you could save yourself a bit on the latency, which could translate to billions of dollars in profits for you. So it's effectively, what we're building this network, which will connect ideally millions of GPUs into and give the consumers ultimate choice. And so, like we can talk about it's permissionless, it's cheaper, it's no long-term commitments. You can get on there, you can create a cluster in fewer than 90 seconds. But what it really comes down to is optionality and choice for the consumer.
Got it. So just diving into the economics a little bit. How is it that it manages to be cheaper? And I don't doubt that it is, but I'm thinking, because usually people think of these decentralized networks as being tougher to censor, more secure, but ultimately less efficient. So how is it that it actually manages to be cheaper?
Sure, it's economics really. You're basically shifting the supply curve to the right. Right now you have effectively cloud has a monopoly over the scarce GPU supply, but there are plenty of GPUs that just aren't being accessed. So you go to these like imagine you're a data center somewhere in the Midwest, and you have a handful of A100s. You're not working with CoreWeave. You're not working with AWS. You are at 12% utilization. So you just want to sell your GPUs. We can tap into that supply. Let's say you're an old Ethereum proof of work miner. Well, obviously, you're not making any money on that. And so you are looking to make money on another source, which could be with us. Let's say that you're a Filecoin storage provider and you have a data center, and most of your supply is CPUs that you're using for Filecoin, but you have a couple GPUs that you want to monetize. Or let's say you're a consumer with a really good 4090 card and it's just sitting idle. Basically, by tapping into this excess supply, we can access this huge network of underutilized GPUs and just completely reduce the cost.
Awesome. So for people listening at home who have a GPU, how can they start contributing to the network?
It's actually really easy. Just go onto IONET and you can sign up as a worker. It takes, if you want to actually access GPU compute, it takes fewer than 90 seconds. But even setting up a worker probably takes a couple minutes. It's just a line of code. There's YouTube videos on how to do this. There's significant documentation on how to do this. The best way to do it, I would say, is just try it yourself.
IONET is on Solana, correct?
That is correct.
Why did you choose to build on Solana?
Great question. Several reasons there. I think first and foremost, Solana is fast and it's cheap. The amount of transactions we do, we're doing, I think, over 1 million transactions a month on BC8, which is it's a product that we built on top of IONET. It's a fully decentralized image generation engine, and so we need something that's fast and cheap, especially when you think of these inferences. These are microtransactions that can be, tenths of a cent, and so we need a network where the gas is hundredths of a cent. Number two, it's just becoming more and more reliable. I know in the early days, Solana had a few problems, but the network has just grown immensely, and it's shown that it's very resilient. It's scaling well, and especially with all these meme coins that have been launching on Solana, I think that's making the network even more resilient and redundant. And so we needed a network that we know we can trust. And then third is the community. The Solana team, obviously Solana Ventures is an investor in us. They've been very helpful. The foundation has been very helpful. And the Solana community has just been so unbelievably welcoming. We just felt that was a great home for us.
Awesome. Yeah, you can't see it in this frame, but I actually have a Solana picture on the wall.
Right nice. Nice.
Logo. Yeah. So, big fan of Solana myself. And yeah, it's kind of become the place for DePIN, it seems like, recently.
Well, it just makes sense. I mean, if you're doing that volume, it's the place to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course. With if you're doing 1 million transactions a month, then price is going to add up pretty quickly, even if it's a few cents difference.
Exactly.
Cool. So to take a step back and talk about DePIN generally, where do you see DePIN going over the next few years?
I mean, I've always really been attracted to DePIN. Maybe from my investing days, I've always been a bit of a picks and shovel investor. But when I think about, I think I heard a quote from a guy from Gartner once that DePIN is what blockchains are made for, right? It solves so many different problems. If you look at like some of the problems it solves with us, obviously, anytime you have a centralized network, there's risks of censorship, there's risks of denying access, there are economic risks, creating economic taxes and charging people economic risks. But, I think DePIN also really helps start the cold start problem. Obviously, networks can use this to bootstrap. It facilitates cross-border transactions much easier. It facilitates microtransactions. And I think, we've only started to see the beginning. Like, you have Render that is building a DePIN for rendering. You have Filecoin, which is building a DePIN for storage. Helium, which is building a DePIN for wireless networks. Now we're coming into AI. And I think it's just going to we're just going to see more and more of these networks decentralize. Obviously, you have things like Hive Mapper, which is like a really cool idea on how to decentralize mapping. I think, I think DePIN is a trend that's here to stay. It's something I've been watching long, and it's really coming into its own right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like what you said about crypto being built for DePIN or DePIN being what it's made for. Because if you think about it, even old networks like Bitcoin, basically you're bootstrapping a physical network of devices by providing these incentives, and it would be very tough to bootstrap that decentralized network without some sort of incentive.
I mean, if you really want to get technical, everything in crypto is a DePIN, right? Mm-hmm. Like Bitcoin's a DePIN, Ethereum's a DePIN. They're just decentralized compute networks, right? Like we're a decentralized GPU network, but that's kind of what Ethereum is. And so, DePIN is this term we've crafted for a specific segment. But I mean, really, the question of why DePINs, it's like why crypto, right? It's just going to decentralize everything, and give better economics to the people, give more control to the people, and sort of disrupt those big seven tech providers that have been sort of causing all those problems.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That makes a lot of sense. Taking a step back, you mentioned a points program before. Can you share any details about that yet or not?
Sure. So, there's a couple different ways to earn points. Obviously, you can, and we have some blog posts on it. You can participate in the network. You can join as a worker. You can add your compute. Would highly recommend for everyone to do that. Try it out. You can also participate as just a general user. We have a points program through Galaxy. It's called the Ignition Program. And you can use this to, you can follow us on Twitter. You can join an AMA. There's a lot of different things you can do to get involved and be a friend of the IONET community.
Fantastic. And a couple wrap-up questions. So first one, and I know this is probably weird since you said you joined the project 8 months ago, but if you had to start another project related to blockchain or crypto, what would it be? What sector would you go into?
I don't think I can answer that because, like I said, I've really been looking at this opportunity for 7 years. I've been really looking to get into crypto, and I just had not seen anything I liked. And it was very interesting because I actually took one of these machine learning boot camps. This was after I was the COO of the machine learning company. And so I did the business side, but I was like, I need to learn more about AI. So I took this 400-hour machine learning boot camp through Lewagen. And, I'm not a developer, but I learned to be like a very, very junior data scientist. I kind of learned how it worked. And during that process, I actually said to myself, like, wow, there are serious problems with, big cloud controlling AI, not just in terms of the compute, but the models, the data. And I said, if somebody could get in there and build a truly decentralized network that could serve AI compute, that is, that's just a tremendous idea. And of course, I thought to myself, well, yeah, sure, I finally had my idea, but what am I going to do, right? Not an engineer. And then that's when I met Ahmad and was like, it was just fate. Here's this brilliant engineer building exactly what I had thought of. And so, I mean, I don't like I said, maybe I'll have an answer to that question for you in another 7 years, but this is really this is the thing that pulled me out of my cushy VC job to get in here and work 100-hour weeks to build something to really take down the big tech.
Love it. Love to hear it. That makes sense, right? If that's been the vision and that's what you're laser focused on,
Yep.
It would be tough to say what else would you start. So final question then, for people looking to learn more about IONET, where should they go?
Sure. And great question. I think there's a lot of different options for this. Number one, I would, I think most importantly, try us out. Go to the website. Try to add a worker, spin up a cluster. You're going to learn. It's funny, when I had a lot of the pitch calls with VCs, I would sit there and I would give these, this pitch for like 30 minutes and they would kind of get it. And at the end, I would just do a demo and they were like, oh man, you should have started with that. Once you do it, it becomes it's so clear how it works and how it's so much better than anything out there. Number two, join the community. I mean, follow us on Twitter, jump into our Telegram, jump into our Discord, and just hang out and chat. And then, of course, we're going to be in Dubai for Token 2049. So if you're out there, stop by and say hello.
Awesome. And I'll be sure to drop those links down in the description.
Definitely. Thank you.
Thank you for coming on, Tori. It's been a pleasure. If you guys enjoyed the interview, be sure to like it and subscribe to the channel and check out the links to learn more about IONET below.